Okay, I'm back.
And action. Hey everybody. Oh, Chris isn't there. Okay. Hey everybody, welcome to an exciting new episode of Birthday. We have everything totally planned and working right now. Let us know if you can hear us, because even after all these years, I don't understand audio. Action. Hey everybody. Oh, Chris isn't there. I can hear me on Chris's now. Hey everybody, welcome to an exciting new episode of Birthday. Or maybe that's me. Oh, we have everything totally planned and working right now. That was me playing it in another window, so good job. At least I know you can hear my voice. Hi Chris, how the hell are you?
Okay. I think my setup is showing things properly. People can hear us, maybe?
They can hear me at least.
Okay, I'm talking now.
Keep talking for just a moment. I'm gonna
We've got
check the YouTube.
yeah. Audio is biggest question. Video.
They can hear me at least. There we go. They can hear us.
Lights,
Okay.
Camera. Okay. All right. I think We're in business.
All right. Why don't you tell the folks at home why the hell we're here?
Okay. This is the celebration for 26 years of the Wing Commander CIC. And we have been reporting the news at wcnews.com since 1998. And the very cool thing we've been able to do the last few years is set up this live stream. So it's been a huge challenge to do the show, All Wings Considered, but once a year we can at least pull off one evening of hanging out, talking Wing Commander. We've got lots of very, very cool Wing Commander stuff to share tonight.
Well, I have less of a guarantee we'll be able to pull off a night of this. As you can see, it's not our prettiest live stream, but yeah, 26 years. What the heck? If you don't know us, I mean, why are you watching our 26th anniversary live stream? But I am Ben Loaf-Lesnick, and my good friend Chris Reed here, and I started WCNews.com with a bunch of other very cool people about 26 years ago. 26 years ago in 7 days, because we are celebrating the observed birthday today. If you are out there in live TV land, we'll be doing trivia in the Discord. We will be taking questions. Anybody out there, feel free to shout out. I'm watching the Discord. I am sort of watching the YouTube chat. But hello, everybody.
Yes, I apologize in advance if I look very distracted, because I'm looking at like 4 different windows across 3 different screens to try to make sure we are talking to people on Discord, YouTube, catching questions, and all of that. But making it happen. It's working.
All right. And if you've never done one of these, we spend about an hour chatting like idiots, and then we'll have a little countdown, and we'll reveal our slate of updates over at WCNews.com, where we've got a couple of exciting presents for the community that you'll enjoy a lot more than just listening to us. Of course, we should also send a very special happy birthday to someone whose actual birthday it is. My All Wings Considered co-host, Jason Dunderdahl McHale. His actual birthday is the 17th, so we are just kind of stealing his valor. So what do you want to do for an hour?
Well, we should talk about Wing Commander.
Absolutely. So how's your Wing Commander year been going?
It has been a pretty good Wing Commander year. I think all things considered, all wings considered. If you haven't heard, George Oldjay made it to Budapest, Hungary. So he is there on the ground getting things set up. And so in about 28 hours, he's going to start recording his brand new album. So that kind of thing doesn't happen every day. And it's the result of just people being crazy and donating tens of thousands of dollars in order to make this happen. And here we are. So very cool things are still happening every year and every day, as you can see in the news.
Well, you say these things don't happen every day, but I can actually reveal here exclusively that we have a second Wing Commander album coming out this year that I've been helping out with the research for a little bit. They are doing a Wing Commander 2 album the same way they did the Fat Man Wing Commander 1 with perfectly archived copies of everything. They've put together all sorts of cool material folks have never heard before. It's going to be good. So it has been an exciting Wing Commander year. I pursue all these weird little background passions, but we've done some cool stuff this year. We got the original storyboards for Wing Commander Academy's intro. I always wondered how those intros work. You watch like a 90s cartoon, and there's always a bunch of scenes that look like they're should be in the show, but they aren't. You remember Wing Commander Academy, the Sartha flies by and you see the kill marks, and you're like, wow, this looks so cool. It's not in any episode. So it was very interesting learning how they would do a set of like a dozen bespoke, super high quality scenes just for an intro, and then they would mix it in with bits and pieces from the first production season. but we got to see the script for that. That was all cool. We've done all sorts of stuff with the music. There's stuff we're not allowed to talk about. It's been a good year of helping folks with their Wing Commander projects and doing some of our own. You're going to see some of the junk I've collected around the world in about an hour. You'll get a chance to play with, but I would call it a good Wing Commander year, all in all.
Even just this week, there was an interview we transcribed in the news, an interview with Star Long. And he talked about what we say all the time. We always tell people this, and I don't think people really believe us because it seems like a long shot. But he reiterated that him, the team, the powers that be, they're working with EA all the time. There's conversations all the time about, if you're not going to do anything with Wing Commander, there's people that would love to do things with Wing Commander, and Electronic Arts is always like, well, we might be doing some things, so no, you can't do anything. And we have nothing specific to report, but we do say all the time that they're not lying. Like, everybody wants to do lots of things, and it's just very, very hard to make things actually happen. And it's hard to make things happen with your major franchises like Star Wars and Mass Effect and whatever. And so Wing Commander, of course, is even further down the list. But that's not to say there's not people in key places that want things to happen. And so, we just say keep the faith, and we don't know if any of this stuff will come to fruition and happen, but people are trying, and we're reporting on what we can report on, and there's still tons of cool stuff that we can share and that we report on every day and that we'll be showing tonight, and it's good stuff.
And even better than cool stuff, there's stupid stuff. We've got. I'm looking around at all the crap that has accumulated in my desk while I have not been using it for the past several months, and here is German PC Player Magazine's Best Space Sim Award Best Space Action Game from 1998, which was of course given to Wing Commander Prophecy. They sent Origin this diskette, and here it is for some reason. It contains a single graphic, like a picture of the award that you would put on our website. I was just using it to test diskettes. I don't know. There's plenty to talk about.
Well, on that note, it's interesting that we're unfortunate that we are finding diskettes that are still working after 30 years because, you never know how they were dying back in the 90s, and so.
Yeah, my experience.
How many would you expect to still be live today?
My experience with diskettes is they either died in the 90s or they're still alive today. They seem to hold up very well, especially compared to, like, if you've ever tried to restore a SideQuest disc. And I know you have tried to restore a SideQuest disc.
We all have, but yes.
You can get nothing off of them. It's soup. But 3.5-inch diskettes are still pretty good over most of the time.
Yeah, the harder things are just making sure you have something that can read them, that they haven't been stored in abusive environments.
So let's go to the chat. Anybody out there have any questions, conversations, things you want to say for the 26th birthday? Let me know.
Let's see. We've got a good number of folks. We got few dozen people on the Discord. Looks like there's 17 people in the chat.
Nice.
Watching the stream live at the moment, and I see that number's going up and down as people come and go.
Our Scott Mensch says that 5.25-inch discs are another story. That's true, and in fact, I just got these in, and I'm terrified to try to run them through the archiving machine. This is Wing Commander 2. This is the Taiwanese release of Wing Commander 2 with these look like CDs, but they're actually 5.25-inch discs in jewel cases. That was how they packaged.
What do you have to read them? Because you can find a USB 3.5-inch disc, but it's a little bit hard to. Do you have an old machine that can read a 5.25?
I do have an old machine. I know there's folks are doing great work with modern stuff, but I just have an old machine that I image them with. But Wing Commander is just only barely 5 1/4. You know, they did Wing 1. Wing 2 was available in Europe, but by then it was really faded out. So we're lucky that we don't have to deal too much with those. There's not too many exclusive 5 1/4 Wing Commander products. So, how's life going? What's going on? I told my mom I was doing this day, and she was like, "Oh, it'll be great to catch up with your friends." Like, well, no, it's the 21st century. Everyone I know is in a chat room, and we talk about everything all the time. So
yeah, that sounds like exactly the type of comment I would get.
Yeah, this is the time when I'm a little bit further from my friends because it's awkward and crazy, and I can't see what's going on in the chat, and I'm trying to put on a show.
Yeah, well, it's been a good summer. The weather's been nice. I think we've been pretty busy.
Well, I'm going to pick up some more random crap. I have an OEM copy of Wing Commander 3 right here that I saw on eBay that says it's property of the Microsoft Corporation Input Device Testing Group. Return or meet thy fate. And for like $10, that seemed like it was too much fun not to pick up. So, and there had just been an article. Some Microsoft tester from the 90s was writing about how they figured out that you couldn't Control C in Wing Commander 3. It was this whole story that nobody was picking it up right. They were all the press picked it up as this, like, they had to play games and they figured this out. But no, it's something particularly special about the Control C combo in Wing Commander 3 because you use it once 15 hours into the game. So it's about how thorough Microsoft's testing was that they figured that out for a game that was 2 or 3 years old. Fascinating stuff. I have there's a
and it didn't.
streak.
And Wing Commander 3 wasn't even super smooth in that. In Wing Commander the transition, you have pure DOS Wing Commander 3 and then Windows 95. I don't know how many people were even trying to get it going in Windows because it was such a easier process to just reboot in DOS mode.
Yeah, in fact, I remember those early numbers. Microsoft was expecting a lot quicker pickup for gamers in Windows 95, but it didn't happen because of all the compatibility stuff. So they were really concerned with getting that right after a point. It felt like they kind of expected people to go, DirectX, that's a great thing. I understand that. Like, no, nobody knew what DirectX was. So it helped developers more than players at the very start.
Mm-hmm. That was one of the bigger things we were helping with troubleshooting as late as like even through Prophecy. If you had DOS CD drivers loaded, which was common, there were some Prophecy incompatibilities, and you had to, I don't remember anymore, but I think you had to deactivate those so that you could let Windows more naturally take over and resolve some incompatibility.
Yeah, it's interesting because I have a mind like a steel trap for that specifically. You know, the details of how I got these games to run in 1993 are burned in there. And then I'll search Twitter. I search Twitter every day for Wing Commander, see who's chatting about it, which is great because I've made a bunch of friends that way. But you find endlessly people that have no idea. You know, like, I played Wing Commander 1 when I got my Pentium. You know, they remember the tech basically, but it's the 3 or 4 year difference between things just makes it sound crazy to me. You weren't playing Wing Commander 1 on a Pentium?
Yeah, well, you couldn't, like that's like a technical impossibility. I mean, you had to do some extreme slowdown to even make that work, which people weren't probably doing.
Oh, and discounts everywhere. It's like, I played Wing Commander, it had 60 discs. It had 7. Wing Commander 2 had 7, that's what you're thinking of. It's possible that if you happen to be in Eastern Europe, and you got the double density version of Wing Commander 2 and both add-ons. You could get it for like 24 discs, but nobody did that. They printed like 50 copies of the special operations.
Mufasa asks in the chat, have we found the lost Super Nintendo port yet?
No,
And,
you would hear about that the minute it happened.
Yes, we do have some exciting lost things found to share tonight, but that one is
still out there. And if folks don't know, that's Wing Commander 2 for the Super Nintendo. I'll tell the story again. In 1993, basically, Electronic Arts came to Origin and they said, hey, you have to start making 3DO games. Our founder went off to start this company to make the 3DO interactive multiplayer, and we want to do a whole slate of first-party titles for it. So Origin got into the console business, and they did Super Wing Commander and Wing Commander 3. They had a project called Prowler that was all worked up. They had Wing 4 for the 3DO in the works. And, of course, the 3DO was a disastrous failure. And then Electronic Arts got on this whole, like, you have to do it for all 5 systems. So every single SKU had to get through this process where they considered porting it. But long story short, by the time they were done with that, Electronic Arts was left, or Origin was left with a pretty good porting group. Folks that could turn out a port to a Super Nintendo or a Genesis or whatever, what have you. It was a lot of Super Nintendo at the time. So they did a bunch of very cheap meaning cheap to make, not crappy. A bunch of cheap Ultima ports, and finally Wing Commander 2 for the Super Nintendo, which was a project that had started like 3 years earlier at Looking Glass for the Genesis. It failed a milestone review and kind of got abandoned. And then Origin had this group that's job was basically to keep the lights on by having we know we will sell 50,000 units of this every time we do it. And that was the very last one. They did the Ultimate Savage Empire, and then they did Wing Commander 2, and it was early 1995. SNES sales on the Christmas were much lower than expected. But it got finished, it got tested, it got sent out to reviewers. It never got published, and no one has ever been able to find a copy. Largely because nobody cared at the time. It was just grist for the mill. A port of Wing Commander 2 for the Super Nintendo in 1995. Nobody cared. The marketing people were pretty accurate about that. Nobody wanted that. Nobody considered it a special thing to preserve. And now it is an incredibly special thing. We came very, very close. We found folks that actually played it. I've tracked down several different reviewers. One claims he still has a copy somewhere, but he hasn't shared it. So someday, I do think someday.
There's definitely material of that era, review copies of things that there's absolutely tons of that stuff that are just locked away in a box somewhere in someone's garage or basement. And it's out there, but it's not easy to get to. It's long forgotten about, and it's just a matter of getting that.
Yeah, but I get excited every time I see somebody has hacked Nintendo and stolen 50 zillion gigabytes, and you see all the Nintendo communities suddenly going fire, like, oh my god, there were originally 167 Pokemon, and here's the... Like, someday they're going to find their review copy of Super Wing 2. I just got this from Australia recently. It is a copy of the movie Entrapment. It is a preview copy. They would have sent this to the VHS rental stores in Australia. Entrapment on one side, and the Wing Commander movie on the other. I love weird packages that have unrelated things. Like there's a German DVD that's Titan AE and Wing Commander, and you kind of see how those go together. But this one, not at all. Oh,
what is the format? Is that a DVD?
No, this is a VHS. It's
VHS.
It's a PAL VHS from Australia. Wing Commander and Entrapment. I've got a dragon here. This is currently available on Chinese bootleg Lego websites. Somebody out there at some point did a mock of the dragon, and the instructions got posted online, and then these companies in China that take instructions for Legos and offer them for sale start selling them. So for like $50 to $60, you can get your own slightly miscolored dragon.
It looks surprisingly good, considering the bootleg nature.
It does. The weird thing is that my cat Lumi, when I leave this here, she removes the fusion cannons. And just the fusion cannons. She takes them off and puts them in the other side of the room. I don't know why. But she's a strange girl. Alright, if you're just joining us, we are celebrating 26 years of WCNews.com and just talking Wing Commander with my good friend Chris Reed here. Let's talk about the original WC News team, because a lot of them are out there tonight. Some of them couldn't make it, and just seems like we should salute everybody who has made the site possible over these years. Aside from us, because we get all the credit. But I'm sure folks have heard us praise Chris Van Heck endlessly. He's the tech guy, the genius behind keeping the site running in a world that has increasingly few websites. He still has ours spinning all the time.
Yeah, it's I don't understand most of what Chris says, but almost every day there's something terribly complicated that needs to be tweaked or updated or fixed, and Chris does that thing.
Yeah, it's always like, I fixed the certificate for the MSC chat zone CG loader. Awesome. I was gonna get that, but
yeah, and if we didn't have it, I don't know what would happen. It just the site would implode. It's too complicated. We have a lot of stuff that's happening. Most websites don't have their own forums anymore, and Wikipedias and streaming video, YouTube subsites, and everything embedded in their own domain and on their own server. But
yeah, and that's kind of the true value of WC News, other than the community, which is what keeps a lot of us sane. But have you ever tried to look up a Star Trek fact on the internet and you end up at Memory Alpha, or even worse, the Star Wars fact on Wikipedia, and it's awful. It's a mess of like floating video ads and total nonsense. It crashes my phone half the time. So I don't know. It's cool at least to have this ethos where we believe that doing this ourselves matters, and doing it without ads. And
the pop-ups are rough. Just having to just close the little clutter crap that appears all over the screen. Yeah, I sometimes wonder about that. There are a few Star Trek sites, not Memory Alpha, but a few Star Trek sites that run some occasional crowdfunding to maintain a quality web experience, and I always donate to those because
TrekCore is great for that.
Yeah, TrekCore is a good example of that.
And they're like us. They collect all this stuff that no one else seems to care about, like all the old advertising material and the promotional whatever, and all these bits of history that are going to matter in 10 and 20 years. But overall, it's just fun to treat something like it matters, and to have something that you can step for and say, hey, I built this community. Batting 500 on building communities. Let me see. What other random things do I have here? Here's a nice Wing Commander 4 demo with that great Banshee render on the cover. I've got
we're very lucky that. I mean, the demos are overlooked massively, but almost all the demos have incredible things that you don't see elsewhere. I made a discovery in one of those this year. Actually, I did a big thorough update to the WCpedia, and let me plug WCpedia now. I think I'm the only one editing it. Please come be my friend. Help make the WCpedia. We've got so much information. We've got to sort it and make it awesome. Come join us. But what was I even talking about? Yeah, well, you're talking about the exclusive things in the demos.
Oh yeah, I found a a tiny little MIDI in the Wing Commander 2 demo that I had never noticed before. Taking it apart, I took the whole thing apart, showed all the put all the elements in the Wikipedia, did the history, figured out the specific time it was shown at the conference in late 1990 when they released it. I figured out the day it was released to Origins BBS. We got all the history for just the Wing Commander 2 demo. But I even found this 3-second long MIDI that was used that was not used in the game, that was used to transition from the first piece to the second one that they play after you see the space scene and then it goes into the station. Demos are amazing. I'm absolutely fascinated by the demos all the time. This is one of those cards that if you ever bought a game at Toys R Us, you had to pick one of these cards and you took it up to the cage to get it out. Those show up on eBay occasionally. And there are people that collect the big ones, so there's people that spend $100 trying to get, I don't know, whatever games are popular, Mario and...
Yeah, well, that's an experience. That's a very 80s, 90s piece of nostalgia. And it's tough when that crosses over into something like that crosses over into the thing you're collecting. It's hard enough to find rare Wing Commander merchandise, but when it's a rare piece of Wing Commander merchandise that's also popular to another community, oof.
Here's another one. It's these are some of the Mylars they use for the Wing Commander movie, and I buy these whenever they show up on eBay. The first time I saw one, I was like, "Oh my god, what a cool collectible!" And now I've got 15 of them. But these would have been at the box office in a movie theater.
I got another one this spring too.
I'm looking for a single-sided version of the big one. Still, I think that must exist because I've got a double side and a single side of the little ones.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Oh, this is something that Leha sent me a while back. It's a autographed photo of Vagabond. Leha does conventions all over the place, and he's still willing to interact with human beings. And he sent me this at a time when I was particularly down, so I thought that was very nice of him.
Yeah, that was nice.
Let's see if we've got any conversation in the chat. Trelane says the Super Nintendo Wing Commander is how he got introduced to the series. Yeah, I don't think people give enough credit to the Super Nintendo Wing Commander. And this is one of these things, knock on wood, if I can get my executive dysfunction broken, I really want to do a stream of the Super Nintendo Wing Commander to get the various retro achievements from retroachievements.org. And I think that would be a cool stream to do that could be a little bit more low-key, because every time I go back to try to do All Wings Considered, it's just overwhelming to me. I just can't focus on it and get the set ready or figure out the technology, but I think maybe if I start that way, maybe that's the way to do it. But the Super Nintendo Wing Commander introduced so many people to the game, and people don't even understand this because it's not even owned by Origin. It wasn't owned by Electronic Arts. It was Mindscape that basically paid for the rights to make their version of Wing Commander 1 for the Super Nintendo. And the whole project is fascinating, how they turn this high-spec game into a very low-spec console thing. And it's just a great story. I've gotten to talk to some of the people who worked on it. They're absolutely fascinating. There's all sorts of hiddens and bits and things like that in the game. And it introduced a massive number of people to the game because people came... you found it renting games. You had this whole audience of kids who didn't have to set up a particular memory module to get into it. You captured so many people with Super Nintendo Wing Commander. It sold better than the original game. It got advertised in comic books.
That was one of the ways I personally got into the Wing Commander series was through the Super Nintendo game. It was very complicated. It was holding shift to select and be a modifier. It was pretty complex for that era. I played Wing Commander 2 on PC, but my initial pathway into Wing Commander 1 was the Super Nintendo, and yeah, that was quite an experience. Unique music still sits in my ear.
PC for me, because my parents did not, my mom specifically, did not let us have game consoles. She said they were a plot to rot children's minds, and I was pretty offended when 15 years later she bought my sister a 3D or a DS when they came out. And they asked her about it, like, what? Why wasn't I allowed to have games? Like, what do you mean? I don't remember that. So I remember going to the Blockbuster Video or Errol's Video, whatever it was at the time, and just staring at the Secret Missions artwork because it was so cool for the Super Nintendo one. Question from Leha. Is that a Wing Commander movie production sketch on the wall behind me? Let me see. That there is one of the posters from the Tiger. That's a set prop. One of the propaganda posters from the Tiger's Claw Lounge. It's supposed to be like, what even is the story of this? I guess a human can be a Karathi somehow. It's very first season of Star Trek Discovery. That below it is indeed a Wing Commander movie sketch with kind of an interesting story behind it. It's the destroyer, the Karathi Relari destroyer. Back when Star Citizen was just first getting started, back in like late 2011 or early 2012, that showed up on eBay. And I think I paid $50 for it. And after I got it, I emailed the guy and said, "Hey, how did you get this? Where did it come from?" And he was like, "Oh, I got like 50 of those." And all this video footage, he was one of those guys who bought storage lockers. And the storage locker for Chris Roberts' previous company, Ascendant, had gone unpaid and someone had bought it. And now this man had the contents. So, Avatar points for me. I instead of saying, "Oh, please sell me those now," I told Chris about it, and he went and worked it out, and all that. He got all that rest of that stuff. But I figured I saved the day. I paid $50 for that. I'm going to keep that one.
Mm-hmm.
And it is cool. It's very early Relari sketch. Sebastian, hello. I'm very slowly looking at chat, guys. Sorry if I don't get these back. Okay, AD says he saw a good Reddit thread the other day. And by the way, I meant to go through everybody else, AD and Hades and everybody else who works on the CIC, but we got distracted. But AD says, saw a good Reddit thread the other day about game demos that have content, not in actual games. And I think just about every Wing Commander demo has something of that, with maybe the exception of Privateer 2, which was a timed version. Privateer 2 does actually have something unique in the demo. It is a timed version, so basically they give you 15 minutes to play around in the world of Privateer 2. But it has two unique videos. Two of those, like when you talk to Joe and he gives you an update. They shot like 10 or 15 of those for different parts of the game. There's 3 discs worth of them, and it's supposed to be like 8 of them on each disc. They cut 2 of them for space, and they only showed up on the demo. So it's literally just Lev going to Joe and they say something awkward or something. It's very simple, but 2 videos that were cut from the game are still in the demo, which I always thought was insanely cool.
Yeah, it's just like Prophecy demo has. It's a video pack.
Oh yeah, Prophecy demo has the separate video pack. Gosh, those are the days. The Privateer 2 demo was never even approved or online. Origin never posted on their FTP. It was just a cover disc demo, which I'm sure was part of the whole drama over that seems to have. Normally, when you see internet drama, especially today, you see 10 million people bickering about the Acolyte or whatever the new Star Wars is and how they hate it and they can prove it's bad, and you always assume, oh, that's just fans being chuds. That's just what fans do. But for Privateer 2, it sounds like it was actually worse inside than outside of the company when they released that as an Origin game. Basically, I think that was the biggest problem.
Yeah, you had a number. It was an isolated development in the UK, but then at some point towards the end, right? They got a bunch of Austin QA.
Basically, yeah, and Privateer 2 had a crazy history. It was initially going to be Privateer 2. Aaron Roberts was going to do Privateer 2 in the UK, while Chris Roberts did Wing Commander 3 in the U.S. And they got a little bit further and they decided, our design isn't quite Privateer. It's going to be something different. So they turned it into a game called Dark Side. It was still called Dark Side when they started the shoot. And then it was the Darkening. I don't know what a Darkening is. No one has ever been able to tell me what a Darkening is or what it has to do with the game. But I love it anyway. So they shot the full motion video as the Darkening. It's finished up as the Darkening. They did an initial press roundup in '95 as the Darkening, and Chris Roberts was going to do Privateer 2 and Privateer 3 as this whole multimedia thing alongside Wing Commander 4. They had Tracy Hickman come and write the script. They had this whole thing that they were going to do with Privateer, and that got dropped. And so they finally said, well, let's market the Darkening as Privateer the Darkening, because it's a very similar gameplay. It's just not a sequel to Privateer. And it was shown at E3 as that, and then, of course, at the very last minute, it was changed to Privateer 2 the Darkening. And this is one of those things that I only learned the true details of this in the last couple months, but it was not a decision made by Electronic Arts. It was not the people on Hi saying, you have to do this. It was Chris Roberts. It was Chris Roberts trying to help his brother's game, which makes perfect sense. Chris was the one who pushed for that. And it happened. And I love it, because I love an unnecessary spin-off. I love expanding a universe in ways that you don't expect. Star Trek is so good at that right now. Every time they announce a show, you're like, what the hell is that? Why would that be a Star Trek show? And then it's great, and it's just adds to your universe. And I love that Privateer 2 did that for Wing Commander. I wish we could have seen more of that.
Yeah, it would have been a unique. It seems like it would have been a really easy way to do weird tie-in stuff. Remember that German fan who was making like Privateer themed fan novels?
Oh yeah, I wanted to go back and find one of those, but I haven't been able to. He had them vanity printed.
I think I bought one or two or something like that. I think I have them. And, I don't read German, so I never read it, but it's just like, what an intense amount of energy and dedication around that thing, of all things.
Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy how that goes. My cat was here all the way through the setup, and now they both disappeared. Well, I can show you some more stuff I got. This I just got from Christian Klein, who got a duplicate, I suppose, and was willing to sell it. This is Wing Commander Armada for the PC-98 Japanese computer. It's a port, and I had a copy of this in CD-ROM, but I've never owned one on diskette, so it's one for the Japanese game shelf.
We were talking a little bit about, prior to this, about topics, and one of them was what would you change about Wing Commander? What would you want? And I was thinking about that one, and that's maybe where my head went to the most, is the unreleased, unavailable Windows port of Armada. We've actually gone it's amazing how playable Armada is and online today. But if it was just a little bit easier, if it was scalable into the higher resolutions and a little bit easier to get online, that would be great.
Yeah, Chris is referencing a pretty obscure canceled game, and it's another one that was canceled but finished. Wing 2 Super Nintendo is definitely my holy grail because it was announced, Once a game is announced, I feel like it should exist. The same with Privateer 3. But for Wing Commander Armada for Windows was a totally unknown project that was actually finished. Origin hired a programmer somewhere in the Midwest to port Armada to Windows, which was Windows 3.1 at the time. Windows for Work, it was one before Windows for Workgroups. 3.11 is Workgroups. I don't know. I don't remember Windows that well. But he did, and it was resolution independent, so the resolution of the game was going to be whatever your Windows resolution was, which would have been so cool at the time, and still today. But never released, never announced. The guy that programmed it does not have a copy. I've never heard anyone else mention it. So just one of those pieces of fan lore.
Yeah. That's, I think we'll someday find Wing Commander 2 for the Super Nintendo, but I don't know about Armada for Windows.
Yeah, that's going to be somebody in Austin happens to cleaning out their garage and have a disc that somehow still works, sort of thing. But you never know. We find some weird stuff. You're going to see a little bit of that tonight.
Mm-hmm.
What else do I have within arm's reach of me?
And a little bit more on the schedule. So we've been going for about 40 minutes.
Oh, okay.
The way we do it is we have an hour of chatter. So another 20 minutes, we'll be catching up. And then at the top of the hour, we're going to hit the button, do a countdown, hit the button. And then we've got some things on the front page at wcnews.com that you'll all be able to check out. And then we'll talk about that. Focus on that for the second hour.
I've got some dragon. I've got a dragon here. And this is something I bought as I was starting to research it, and I have to go back to it. But I noticed that Blair's nose art in the Wing Commander movie is basically this dragon, a two-headed gold dragon, which I think AD suggested is supposed to show the conflict between him and his human and pilgrim selves. I don't know, but I saw somebody made a toy that looks just like the art. I figured I would have Blair's nose art dragon, and I was gonna try to enter the world of dragon people and figure out if the two heads means something or if the fact it's gold means something, because they have their own lore. But I have been a little bit too frightened to get in there yet. But that's one for the next month or so. Let's check out some chatter. I wonder how Discord decides to hide people's names. Like, I don't know, so sometimes it'll show me, or when you're in streaming mode anyway. People were talking about Privateer 3, and that would have been cool. I've seen so much stuff from Privateer 3. I don't know if it would have been a great story to a game. Like the scripts I've seen are pretty weird. They're definitely more on the prophecy side of things than Wing 3 or 4. But all the in-flight stuff is so cool. The vision engine is so cool. The ship designs they did were so cool. It's a shame.
I'm a little foggy on the details. Did it not have some time travel elements from Kilrathi that wanted to save Kilra and what?
Yeah, the one that is closest to the release version that I have seen, and I think it's just from a couple weeks before they canceled it, is that the scientist from Wing Commander 3, Dr. Severin, has been captured by a Kilrathi warlord who is forcing him to learn how to use a Steltech time machine that is going to rebuild Kilra and restart the war. Which, it sounds more like a Star Trek plot or a Star Wars or something. I think they could have pulled it off. I don't know if they could have pulled it off with they were going to shoot in Austin with green screens, and it definitely would not have looked like Wing Commander 4, but that doesn't matter.
There are bits of time travel in the Wing Commander universe.
There are a couple minor references to time travel, particularly in Privateer 2.
Yeah. I like the nuke. I like the Nukem bomb. It time travels, but only forward to the point right after it explodes. So it takes you out of the blast radius and then deposits you in the aftermath. And
this is exactly this is another one of those minor contact points where you can see the culture war between the US and the UK, because in the original UK version of the manual, the Nukem bomb works like Chris said. It describes how it jumps you forward a second, and then it destroys everything around you, and you're safe. You don't take the damage, which is a very funny idea. It's super Privateer 2, that kind of Douglas Adams Hitchhiker's Guide comedy sort of a sense to the game, and it makes sense in like a pulpy sci-fi universe, but US version cuts that entirely. It's just a big bomb. And you can just imagine the guys at Creative Services just shaking their head at the jokes in the Privateer 2 manual and switching them to less
and
cringy things.
You did a perfect side by side of the different versions of the manual.
Yeah,
highlighting the little words that were changed in each edition. Somebody spent a lot of time tweaking between editions.
In fact, I noticed that in some other stuff lately. I've been looking at some high res Privateer and Wing 3 stuff, and I've noticed that whenever Chris Douglas would slip in his fake company, which you all know as Douglas Aerospace, it's always Douglas Astrospace. You zoom in on the Tarsus in Privateer and the original model, it says it's the Douglas Astrospace DX1000 or something. It's used a couple times in Wing 3 on like background monitors that you can't actually read in the game. But obviously someone on the editing side, when they were doing the manual, took a look at that, which is a hilarious name. Astrospace is a fantastic play on aerospace. But somebody said, no, this is silly, it should be aerospace. So the published version is always aerospace. And you kind of see in terms of like continuity and lore how much control that kind of after the fact, like the folks doing the manual had. You know, nobody making Wing Commander 3 was thinking about when it took place or the history of the Confederation or anything. That all gets added to the soup after it's cooked. And sometimes it's very different from what they were thinking just in the time of making the game. That's why I love to look back at some of the different versions of these things. And it's these days it's kind of like, the folks that are exploring the universe with these telescopes, and we send a telescope up into space and it takes a picture of the universe, and because of the way light travels, we're seeing it 10 trillion years ago. These are not accurate scientific numbers in any way, but the general idea that you photograph something now and you figure out how it was because of the rules about it. And I love when we figure out stuff like that for Wing Commander. Like somebody figured out recently that the mouth scripts for Wing Commander 1, the mouth movements, which have their own script separate from the totally separate from the actual text you see on the screen. It's like how the mouth should, basically a phonetic script to tell you how the mouth works. And they figured out that you can take these phonetic scripts, and because they didn't bother to update them after the first draft, after the first alpha of Wing Commander 1, so you can go back and see when missions were totally changed and when dialogue was changed and how, CSS got changed to CSS for all the ships, and there's a couple missions where the mouth movements are totally different than what's being said. It's just a fascinating way to look back. And today we've got version control, and if somebody really cared, they could see anything anybody had ever done in a game. But back then, nothing like that. So we, part of our job as fake video game historians is to figure out those neat little tricks and look back. They call me Grimace. Do we know if much Wing Commander coverage was lost when Game Informer closed? I believe not so much, because they didn't really cover PC games at the time Wing Commander was super active. So I know they reviewed Arena, and it'd been mentioned in looking back best of things, which I think are probably mostly preserved on the CIC. But we didn't lose classic reviews or interviews for Wing or anything.
Yeah, and I don't know. The internet has done a pretty good job of archiving things like magazines and websites. If it's simple print, text, a lot of it's out there.
Scrapyard Worst says, what are the main challenges faced by the player in the original Wing Commander, and how do they impact the overall gameplay experience? Space cats, I guess, are a big problem. I don't know more than that, really. If we're talking about outside of the game, it's just getting it to work like it did in 1990. Wing Commander 1 became very obsolete very quickly because it didn't have any... frame rate
limiter.
Yeah, no frame limiter. And at the time, you didn't resell games. Your game was a one-shot thing, and you didn't care if... once it was either a success or failure, you moved on to the next thing. In fact, in 1991-2 Origin launch, if you've ever seen a copy of Wing Commander 1 that has a sticker that's complete uncut special edition, that was an experiment in reselling Wing Commander as a budget game. Budget game meaning a $40 game a year and a half after it came out, and that was a massive success, and it led to all sorts of things like the CD-ROM classics and all the stuff bundled. But back in the day, you sold your game once, and then maybe you could sell it to like once multimedia started to be on the rise, you could maybe sell it as like an OEM bundle thing. But by the mid '90s, it was something else.
Wing Commander 2 was quite an OEM success. I have a spindle of about 70 copies of Wing Commander 2 OEM.
Oh yeah, they had that for everybody. In fact, it was one of the first bundled CD-ROMs. Before the initial deal for Wing 2 CD-ROM was made before. It was a legacy thing where they made the deal before the EA buyout, and it ended up on a bunch of different. Very, very, before Creative Labs had kind of become the go-to multimedia kit thing, there was like High Val and Elite and all these like very, very early CD-ROM things, and it would come with Wing Commander 2. And in fact, if you ever looked at those Wing Commander 2s, some of them are not the deluxe edition. Some of them are just Wing Commander 2 without the add-ons, which...
On CD without the expansions,
Hades says there are so many weird UKs in P2, like the obsession with lotteries, which came from the UK's national lottery launching during the game's development. And he will know better than I because he actually is a UK person, but absolutely. Everything from like the ships named after soccer players to Your Voice by Danny Bear. By the way, I looked up recently. What is a presenter? Can anyone in the UK tell me what a presenter is? Because I see this constantly described as celebrities' jobs. But anyway, I looked her up, and apparently she's the voice of the ship in No Power Reader, who is a real estate agent in Los Angeles now. And remember when she has like 9 lines in the game, and that was such a crazy thing during the promotion. It was, it's got Danny Bear. And no Americans knew what that was. Although, speaking of the Privateer 2, the international actors, if you've ever looked at the different European countries, they each would promote a different one. The U.S. was Christopher Walken. This is a Christopher Walken game. UK was... what was you? I can't remember which you had. It may have been... It may have just been Lev in the UK, but France was the girl, Matilda May. But they would, the back of the box changes depending on the region, with which of the member of the international cast is going to be the one they sell to you. Daniel Payne says, I met Clive Owen at my job last summer and I couldn't resist mentioning Privateer 2 to him. It was interesting seeing him recalling something he hadn't thought of in the last time. That is so cool.
The other one is in Germany. You get, Jürgen.
Oh, Jürgen Prochnow in Germany, that's right.
Yeah.
That is so cool. I'm very jealous of you, Daniel Payne. That's such a cool thing to do. Yes, failure tag. That's right. Jürgen Prochnow is in the back of the German box. Jürgen Prochnow. German. I know speak good so. Privateer 2 is just a crazy experience all around. And we're going to be thinking a little bit about that in just a few minutes, actually. In fact, AD had sent us a special video to share, but it's 8 minutes long, and that's going to go over our midpoint. So we'll watch it after the break. But stay tuned after the big reveal, because we're going to be showing world exclusive right here on this stream a reconstructed version of the climax of the Wing Commander movie. It's the I'm sure folks know the story about how much they cut from the movie. AD has gone back to a bunch of different sources and reconstructed the original Concom sequence where the Marines board the ship and they fight their way to the Kilrathi, and it turns out there's a human traitor, and Gerald and Blair have to fight them. So we're going to see that for the very first time coming up in the next hour. The most radio personality thing I ever did. Or radio presenter, as I'm told by Hades right here, that a presenter is a TV host. Which, I don't think anybody has the job specifically as a TV host. I look up somebody in the UK and it's always like, he's a TV presenter. But in the US, it's just... actor. I guess it's just a sub form of actor. But it seems to be a very big thing they credit there. John Hurt was big. John Hurt might have been the U.S. one. I'm trying to remember what the EPK had. But by the way, another thing we did this past year was the updated versions of our HoloVids pages for Wing Commander 4, Wing Commander Prophecy, and Privateer 2, and they are incredibly comprehensive now. They're on the WCpedia, and they have everything. We have every promotional thing we can figure out, every TV appearance. We've collected so much crazy video. We've done like every possible version of every cutscene. We have all the different languages of each cutscene. It's
really nice to be, being able to get all the snippets of text, listen to all the things, including the in-flight text. That's a lost one. You don't often people like.
Oh yeah, we got all the.
But being able to get the story-driven cutscenes in flight is really nice to be able to recall and look at on demand.
Mm-hmm. Oh, AD says this does not have the actual knife fight, but he can cut one up for us that has it. So watch for when we... Yeah, he says he can render it out now if we want that. Yeah, I'd love to show the actual knife fight. So render that out, and you're racing the clock here.
All right, we're coming down to the last couple minutes.
We've done no trivia.
We're going to reload. We'll do a countdown, and then we're going to push the button on the front page. There will be updates, as there usually are. And it's not the largest volume of updates, but some very, very cool, never-before-seen stuff that...
Yeah, I mean, obviously the problem with getting old and having kids and lives is that we can't Wing Commander all the time, but damn, I do enjoy when I can. Yeah. And I certainly hope to be doing this well into my retirement, so expect continued updates. Well, do I have anything I can pick up? Let's see. Got a random CCG card. My house, since I was a teenager, has, you find these everywhere.
It's like glitter.
The CCG commons. You can't throw them out because how could you bring yourself to do that? But also, I do not need my 9,000th Rusty card. You criticize the rank insignias in the CCG. Nobody, the folks doing the CCG didn't get the Bible's list of rank insignias from Wing 3. So every single one is a Navy captain, the silver solid bar. If you look at the generic wingmen in CCG, they're all Navy captains.
All right, we must be getting close because I see 28 people now on the live stream, which is up there.
Sorry for making you watch this, guys. I have very low self-esteem. So,
we can count down? We do the count?
All right, yeah, let's do it.
And we will start counting slowly, and in the chat, people can count down as well. So we'll do a slow count from 10.
Should I do that or?
Yes.
All right. Go for it. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Why did we 2? 1, 0. Woo!
Okay, I had to do the cue because now we have a leg on voice.
Nobody look up the clip where I forgot how fingers work.
Okay.
All right. In fact, I can open up the site right here.
The chat is counting down.
Okay. That counting did not count.
All right, here we go. I'm hitting the button. We are publishing.
I had a thing to do Chrome setup here, but it seems to have exploded. I will have the site up in just a moment. There we go. So here is our site for today. We've got your normal happy birthday opening, and here's my exciting present for everybody, which is an alpha copy of Wing Commander Privateer. This is a build from about 6 weeks before the game was finished, and it's going to be your job to play an unreleased version of Privateer and discover what's in there. We went through... Where'd my Chrome go? Is my...
And it's not just a vague what if there might be differences. The implication is that we think there is a cool cutscene when you find the Stealtech derelict or something like that.
Yes, one thing I've confirmed, at least it's in there from just looking at the contents, because the structures of things are different than the finished game. It doesn't use save games from the finished game. They don't work correctly. There's all sorts of things to explore, but one thing I was able to pull out with Originator, and shout out to Originator, which is one of the great things in Wing Commander these days. I was able to pull out the cinematics file, and there's an additional cutscene that plays when Brownhair discovers the Stealtech drone called Discovery. I haven't been able to get so far into the game. It's even more crashy than Disc Privateer, if you remember that, but very exciting. People are going to get there and they're going to figure it out, and you're going to notice when you play it feels slightly off in weird ways, and there's stuff like when you quit, it says "Thank you for playing Trade Commander," which was the previous name for Privateer. And an insane amount of content was cut from Privateer. Not clear exactly when in the process. This is closer to finished, but it's not finished. So there's stuff in there to discover. You all get to go back to the Gemini sector and discover it. And
if you don't have the ability to do a recording, if you can get the save game from the end, or near to where it is, and you can send it back to us, and we'll get it captured and then post that video.
And this is how we figured this out. This was an eBay listing that I happened to notice, and luckily nobody else did, which is Privateer Alpha 1.15, disc 1 of 7. And first I saw the origin disc, and I was like, oh, this is a set of replacement discs, because when you ordered replacement discs from Origin, if they didn't have the manufacturer disc with the stickers, they would send you a generic disc and it would be printed on. But I looked closer, and the first thing that hit me was disc 1 of 7. Privateer came on 6 discs. So this is it's at least an extra disc of something. So I bought it, and I was so anxious for about a week, thinking, did I just waste several $100s on nothing? Am I even going to be able to read these? And luckily, I was able to read them perfectly.
The excruciating thing would have been if one disc didn't work. Disc 7 didn't work.
But I was able to pull it right out, and we have it posted as both the disc images if you want to play with those, or we have the extracted, the full thing. Just dump it in DOSBox and play around. So let me go down a little bit. See, we have a couple of corollaries to this. We also have a beta copy of Privateer 2, which is not as exciting. It's much more feature complete, but it is different. And this version was recovered from the Whereas community. This was the version that leaked online in 1996, about a month before the game came out. And at the time, we said we refused to touch it. We wouldn't download it. We wouldn't play it. We were teenagers and we believed in something. And now we don't believe in anything. So here it is back after finding it in a Russian Whereas CD from 1996. So this is another version of Privateer 2 to explore. It does not currently have the movies, because that was how they would pirate it. It just plays the Intel movie over and over again. But you can see the file list, and you can add them back in if you have the published version. And I'm eager to see what's discovered here too. I have not. I've loaded it, and that's all. So a copy of Privateer 2 for you. So the Privateer 1 is an alpha. The game was not feature complete. This is a beta, which is theoretically feature complete, but as you can see from the description, it actually has 4 CDs instead of 3. It looked like the original idea was that after you finish the story of the game, you would put in a 4th CD that was the rest of the universe. It was the ongoing everything. And of course, they cut that for space and moved videos around. But it's very interesting, and I think historians are going to enjoy it. Next, we've got, and this is the third thing from me, which is exciting to me, maybe not as exciting to most people, but this is 5 missions from Wing Commander Academy that were developed by Origin and posted to their BBS. I know we talked about this in chat. I streamed some of them at one point, and we finally have them released.
It's like even though there's no real, thing to it, it's kind of like a real Origin campaign.
Yeah.
In a sense. Like, they're real Origin Wing Commander missions that, maybe they're silly little missions, but it's real, content from Origin, Wing Commander vintage.
And you can sense it when you play them, because you can see how, this is showing me how a rescue mission works, so this is showing me how you can tell a story with this simple thing. They feel like, and this is a weird thing to say, and maybe I'm just a jackass, but they feel like professional quality Wing Commander Academy missions. I've played a lot of fan-designed Wing Commander Academy missions. I love them, but these are some of the most fun, balanced ones. And then we've got our poll. How long have we been visiting the CIC? I've been here since WCHS. We've got 8 votes already. Results for the last one. Here's the Prophecy logo intro from Fekler Targ. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He's done some of the enhancement stuff, and one of the things that the DVD version of Prophecy did not have was the very intro scene that showed the logo, and so now you can add that back to the DVD version, and he's got a video too. And here's a cake from Leah. So that was our theme this year. We call it What You See Is What You Play, which is goofy as heck, taken from the Wing Commander 1 box, but we wanted to give people something they could actually do this year. So Privateer Alpha it was, and I know a lot of people are going to be like, okay, I don't want to play a weird broken game from 1993, but some of you are, and you're going to have a good time. In fact, I'll load it up here in just a moment, so we can take a look, and you can at least see how it actually works.
Even if you're not going to actually play it, it's very cool to know that it exists, that it's out there, that some people can play it, and they can learn from it, and tease out little new things that just kind of better shape our understanding of the game.
Yeah, because I never want to be the kind of video game collector that says, hey, I own this, and I'm going to put it on my shelf. Because I'm an idiot. I don't know how to do this tech stuff. If I give this out to the community, you guys are going to do much cooler things than I ever could. So, yeah, go do things.
Yeah, that's very much our thing. We have hoarded a lot, and so that we could give away as much as possible and put as much out there as possible.
Yeah, I don't want all this shit going in a mausoleum. I want this to go to, we've already been donating stuff to the University of Texas video game archives. There is a Ben Lesnick WC News collection that you can access at the Dolph Briscoe Center for American History, and when I'm gone, they can have any of this they want. But I've noticed what a huge loss it was when Joe Garrity got out of the game. He stopped having the Origin Museum. That was such a great reference point for me. We needed to know something weird in a copy of Ultima 7. You could call Joe, and now you can't call Joe.
Although that was a bummer in its own way, the nature in which it was dissolved led to a few nice discoveries.
Oh, yeah. I've got...
It worked out in the end.
It did. The guy that got it ended up being a really good guy, and most of the rare stuff ended up in Germany with an even greater guy. All things happen for a reason.
We got a few things that hadn't previously been scanned and photographed and publicized, so that's nice to get some of that out there.
Well, I am thinking that while you and I take a very short break, why don't I play the first video from AD. He hasn't sent us a second one, but we'll go ahead and play this one. This is the reconstructed ComCon scene, so you can see how it was meant to be. Or not how it was meant to be.
Picking up some strange electromagnetic emissions from the thoracic ship.
Sure.
They're pilgrim, the same ULF frequency I picked up earlier.
Where?
Deck 2, aft section. The bridge.
Is there audio? Is there supposed to be audio?
There should be audio.
I don't know if... maybe I'm just not hearing it right.
Yeah, I'm showing
Yes,
audio
there's audio.
here. Okay.
Yes, I'm just not in tune with it.
Okay.
Graham says it's quiet. I don't know if there's a way to turn it up.
Ugh, nice. I believe there's another way to the right.
Answer your station.
You should have never brought that half-breed on this mission. His orders were to stay on the ship. Stay here. I'll find him.
Nicely done.
Thanks for the help.
I am a hologram. Don't touch the red button.
What the hell? Pegasus Navcom.
Wow, they're never going to let us show that one again in a million years. Am I still muted? Probably.
I hear you.
There we go. Hey, everybody. I think. Except, can anyone hear me? I feel like my mic is not picking up. You can hear me, right, Chris?
Yep, I hear you.
All right, well, would you do me a favor and ask people to let me know if they can't hear me? Because
Sure.
my panel that confuses me is not showing anything. But as we say, that was the...
I think we're back. People hear us.
All right, good. So that was the initial boarding of the Concom sequence from the movie as it was originally scripted, which AD has recreated. We'll have that up on the site in the next couple days, and you can study it in detail. And if he has the next part with the knife fight ready tonight, we will kick that into the live stream in just a little bit. But for now, let's talk more Wing Commander. One thing I feel like I should definitely do, at least a little bit, is load up DOSBox. Just want to show you, at the very least, that the Privateer Alpha mounted now. There's the files. You can okay, so I unzip them from the modern one, but this build was actually done on made on August 9th, 1993, which was my wife Allie's birthday. 10 years after my wife Allie's birthday, but just a fun coincidence. And I also got the discs on August 9th, 2024, so it's been a lot of time coincidences.
Cosmic coincidence.
Anyway, it loads just like Privateer. You already see there's some little buggy stuff with scene transitions. I don't have the sound configured. I'm sure people will be able to figure out how to do that. But it's Privateer. I believe the intro is the same. So I will go here and start a new game. My name is Ben, and my Privateer call sign is Bandit. And yeah, it's Privateer. Classic Privateer, before there was speech. And okay, chat, what do you guys do when you start Privateer? Of course, you sell your. You probably notice some of the prices are different. I'm gonna sell our missile launcher. We're gonna buy another laser. We're gonna buy afterburner. Alright. And as I say, it's very, very it is less stable than even the disk version of Privateer. But that is fine. Mission computer.
I never sell anything because it just feels like you're losing.
I just can't do it without that afterburner. I need the afterburner immediately. And I wasn't going to use that missile launcher anyway. You know what? Let's switch that to keyboard. Alright, let's go to Hector. What do we have out here in space? You can see there's no cap for FPS on the transition, so we shot right by just like in the original Wing Commander. Okay, Talons. Pirates. It does not quite feel like Privateer. You know, I think you know how to battle a Talon, and there's just something different about it. Smarter men than I are going to have to figure it out. In fact, I'm having trouble even just seeing my guns there. Yeah, well, I'm not even hitting him like I normally would.
Well, the thing about Privateer to me is maybe more so than some of the other games is just how it feels. It has a feel to it. Feels very solid. It's slow but deliberate and intentional for the class of ships that you're flying. So anything that upsets that balance would be
yeah. See, I've already lost my maneuvering threads. Is Hector spelled wrong? Is that Hoktar? Is the font, the E different in the font? I don't know. It's going to be minor things like that we're going to discover in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to skip this mission because I can't kill anything in this version of the game. I'm going to head to this base. I've damaged my maneuvering jets severely. Come on, guys. What are my afterburners not working? No, they're not. Ooh. Come on, base. One thing I wonder if we might discover is the Privateer, up until very late in development, had a system of fixers that would auto-generate here. They would use the generic male and female randomized art to create fixers that would offer you a series of missions from the bars, and that's something we might find as we play. It's just Hard to know. There's so much
That would be
content that was
crazy
covered in
That
Privateer.
appears, yeah.
Nice cheap repair. But yeah, for the most part, it's a little more Privateer for you. And I'm really excited for what we find. These guys are different. That's not. They don't have the same preset faces, by the way. They have fully randomized faces. Look, that doesn't look like one of the bartenders or that doesn't look like the ship's dealer in the finished game, does it? Let's check that. Luckily, I happen to have done for our favorite website a little guide to these guys.
Oh, those faces are weird.
Yeah, they are. They look much like the older faces. I'm just scrambling through the... In fact... Look there, that's not one of those guys at all. He's got the hair from the first one, but the eyes and the mouth are different.
Very unsettling.
Oops, I'm trying to play the stream instead of the actual game now. So, yeah, I think we're going to find stuff like that as we go along. Look at that face. What is that? That's not a normal face. And that's because instead of having a specific bartender file, they have a generic... I saw this as I was looking through the guts of the thing. They have a generic male and female file that can be anything. And look, you can see he's bugged. His eyes are not on there correctly.
It's weird.
This is so cool. I say I want every... Look at her! See, she's using the original system for a generic male or generic female character, which would have been for creating fixers. Oh my god, that's so cool. I didn't even think to check this before. Anyway, that's Privateer. You've played it before. Now play it again for the first time. Alright, let me close DOSBox. Alright, how the hell are you doing, Chris?
Doing good.
So is this the year we finally bring back All Wings Considered? I hope so. I hope so. I've been sick for a while and I've been recovering, and this last year has been great. I've started swimming every other day. I've lost a bunch of weight. I'm active and I have the energy. I just need to get through whatever depression keeps me from just cleaning all this up and making a show. Because there's nothing more fun than talking about Wing Commander.
Yeah, it's quite a production. When you and Dunderdall were doing them weekly, that was a lot of weekly content you were scripting out and slotting into a, even though you would plan it as 2 hours, that's
it would
a
always
lot.
be hours.
And then
and
you'd
hours.
actually play it and it would turn into, 3 or 4 hours. Either way, it's a big undertaking.
It's so much fun, though. It's one of those things that you dread until you start the stream. You're like, hey, this is so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
Here's some weird ones I just picked up. These are advertisements from Universal Cartoon Studios from trade publications where they are announcing Wing Commander Academy and other shows. I started picking those up. Part of me says, damn those people on eBay that cut up magazines and sell the ads, and sometimes I use them to discover ads I wouldn't have seen otherwise, so who knows. But hey, anybody out there, if you've got questions, comments, birthday wishes, let me know, and we will bring you into the conversation.
Someone in the YouTube chat noted that the afterburner on the Tarsus was 900.
Yeah, there's all sorts of little balance things like that, because it's the alpha. That stuff has not been locked. It's still going through QA.
Yeah.
Oh, and I know folks have wondered about where these came from, what the history of these discs is. Because when I first saw it and I figured it out, my initial thought was someone is catfishing me. Someone has figured out a bend trap exactly. They've written Wing Commander on some discs and they're selling it for several $100s, and they're going to get me. And they did get me, but it turned out to be genuine. I talked to the lady that was selling them. She was in the process of selling off her husband's classic games collection. He did not remember whether this was... He had been a moderator on CompuServe's Space Sim or Flight Sim group back in the day, and he had also done writing for CGW as like a contract person. So it was one of those two was how he ended up with a alpha copy of Privateer a couple of weeks before it came out.
Well, that worked out for us.
It really did, because you didn't want to see the other thing I was working on. You'll see it later this year. Oh, AD, you know what? Why don't you fill some air? Because AD has sent me the other video that he has gotten. The extended pilgrim fight.
Okay.
While I download that.
That's exciting.
And I will set that up and we can watch another bit of Lost Wing Commander movie. Some folks know, other folks do not. AD has been working on reconstructing the Wing Commander movie out of various sources. Reconstructing the movie as it was initially imagined from the shooting script. And we actually got to watch a cut of his recently. This is a reason to hang out in Wingnut, because we do stuff like that. And we're going to find a way to release it for everybody once it's ready. And
It's just a typical Tuesday night.
is it Tuesday? I don't know what day it is at all anymore.
No, I was speaking about the type of thing that when AD stumbles on something.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I've got this video in. Chris and I are going to mute our microphones right now so we don't talk over it again. But let's check out the Pilgrim fight, courtesy of AD, who turned this around real fast, which is... Again, we've got an incredible team that is so perfect at doing something that is just a hobby, that is something we love, and you can't do better. You can't do any better than that. All right, muting now.
Don't touch the red button.
What the hell? Pegasus Navcom.
They have the crew's jump coordinates, Merlin.
They have more than that. I'm picking up strong electromagnetic emissions from the panel to the right. It's a ULF signal. They're the Tiger Claw's coordinates.
What's the source?
The Tiger Claw.
There's a traitor on the Claw?
It gets worse. It's encrypted with an executive-level code.
Who's got access to those codes?
Only Sansky and Gerald. It just went from ULF to ultra-high frequency. The Tiger Claw just became a beacon.
Every Karathi ship in the sector will be able to find her. You'd like that, wouldn't you?
You treacherous piece of garbage. I should feed you to these things.
Looks like you'll get your chance. They probably owe you a few favors, don't they?
Mr. Blair.
I believe you just called me a traitor.
Blair.
Turn it off.
To think we came from you.
Admiral Wilson. But the Pegasus. You were in command.
20 years of service.
It's ironic, isn't it?
They never
Wait!
knew. Where did you get that cross?
It was my mother's. She was killed in Peron.
When you remember Perone, what do you feel?
Hate.
If you're a pilgrim, prove it. Kill him. With your cross.
try, Pilgrim.
I knew it all along. Come on, Pilgrim. Pass your test.
Finish him. Come on, Pilgrim.
Why won't Tolwyn?
The stars were the Pilgrim's destiny. Not Earth's. Not Kilra's. This way we all lose.
Shit!
Now you want to know who your traitor is?
Okay, sir.
Secure the fuel cells. Blair and I have some business to take care of.
Marines, move out.
And there we have it. That is, that's that. That is the Pilgrim knife fight that you have probably heard of many times over the years. It appears in the novel. You've heard folks explaining that that's what changed about the movie. Yeah, if you watch the final movie, they cut that down to 30 seconds of basically Blair seeing the Kilrathi shooting one and then walking up to the Concom, and you can tell that the set is changing from shot to shot because they basically pasted it together with what they could, because they had to remove everything about they were trying to remove as many of the Kilrathi rubber suit shots as possible. They were trying to remove the Pilgrim's traitor subplot, and one of the big changes from the movie, and I'm glad folks got to see that. We'll have it posted on the YouTube separately, so you don't have to hear us yammering over it. You back online, Chris?
I'm here. Hello.
Oh, good. Your microphone is so good. I can't tell. I can't tell when it's just sitting.
I have a fancy microphone that I haven't used for over a year, so it's wonderful to have a reason to pull it out.
All right. What should we talk about now? I'll throw it to the audience, of course. Anybody out there have any questions or comments or any of that?
Oh, Zyphage pulled out the Centurion afterburner speed is 1250. That's without an acceleration. What is it called? A speed enhancer.
Yeah,
Very
because
cool.
it's just 1,000 in the game, I think.
Yeah. Love stuff like that.
Yeah, and I know we're going to find a lot of that in the next couple of weeks. Also, somebody had pointed out in one of the chats, was it Grim maybe, said there's they call me Grim, said there's a Wing Commander 35mm print up on eBay. There have been a couple of those recently. A company that owned movie prints for charities sold off like 5 of them, and they're floating around now. And I've got one. I got one of them. And
I was gonna say, I thought you had one. So
I do. Yeah,
waiting for the perfect venue to do a screening.
Yeah, or a 4K scan someday.
Mm-hmm.
Feckler Targ mentions she read the novelization of the movie and the story works much better with all deleted scenes. Absolutely. I mean, the movie, so much of the story is cut out of the movie. It makes so much more sense when you have the traitor driving everything, and when you have Blair's hologram Merlin providing exposition.
Yeah.
So excited! It warms my heart to see people already playing Privateer Alpha.
Yeah, I guess I didn't expect that, but that's awesome. You
just dump it right in.
That's one of those things where it's like it's not that easy for us to be able to compartmentalize sometimes and jump into that. Some of the stuff that we talk about, that we report on in the news, we have just enough time in our day-to-day to put it out there and hope that people who are reading it on the other end then are able to take it and run with it and go from there, and that's great to see.
Yeah, and if you are one of those people out there, join us in chat. I would love to have more Wing Commander buddies who can just dork out about the craziest, most obscure stuff. Like there was that one lady a month or so ago who was really into the novels, who was in chat, and great discussion. I wish she was around more. But like stuff like noticing coffee flavors that get mentioned in false colors. I love stuff like that. I love viewing Wing Commander. You know, Wing Commander is a canon from which to jump off. In fact, I did a embarrassing big poetry update on the CIC this year. It was like 10,000 words about poetry referenced in Wing Commander, and I love thinking like that. I love taking something I know in Wing Commander and then trying to learn as much as possible about it and turn it into a narrative and a story, and it's been fun.
One of the things that's interesting about when you talk to people, meet people over the Discord or whatever, is that a lot of people have non-traditional, we talk about how people who found their way into Wing Commander through Super Nintendo or something, that seems like a less common, even though it's actually very common. But there's so many people out there that just saw the movie or just read the novels or saw the TV show and then found their way into the Wing Commander games slowly through those other pathways.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting.
And it's cool these days seeing younger kids who show up to the Discord and they're looking to talk about the video game their parents played, and they find that we're kind of a good group of people to hang out with. We try to have a welcoming environment for people to learn about Wing Commander. One of the things I hate more than anything is online communities where the whole point is, I know the most about Wing Commander, and none of you are allowed to be as knowledgeable as me, and that's not how it should work at all. Anything that I want to vomit out into a wiki, and somebody else can do it better.
Yeah, I would not have expected, and it's amazing to see in the 2020s, the mid-2020s, there's people who are in high school hanging out in the Discord, whatever, asking basic Wing Commander questions, and it's pretty amazing.
It's cool stuff, yeah. Because I remember being that guy in high school, didn't know what I was doing, was scared of the world, had to figure things out, and I had that great group of online friends on IRC, and I hope we're giving that to new folks to some degree. So it's neat. And of course, I should thank you personally. We're at that point in the night where we're all. You've been such a good friend to me all these years, and we've done some amazing things together. However pointless they may be in the rung of human history, but I just want to say before God and everyone, you're such a good friend, and I'm so
thank you.
Glad I know you.
Both ways. I don't know what the last 26 years exactly would have looked like if we had not all linked up and started this.
Yeah. It's who knows what they're doing with their lives. One of those situations. Zeether says, seeing that movie clip makes me wish they'd do a new Blu-ray. I hear you. I would love to see. I don't think Chris Roberts has the interest in it anymore, but I would love to see him re-edit the movie, redo some of the stuff he thinks didn't work. And
have you seen those the price of the Blu-ray?
Oh, it's crazy because it was produced for less than a year. It was part of a license deal with Anchor Bay, and they made it for a year before Fox lost the rights back to Chris, and again, it's one of those things where, for all we complain about the Wing Commander movie and how nobody saw it and blah blah blah, more people saw the Wing Commander movie in theaters than ever played a Wing Commander game, and it's just that because of the difference of a scale between a game community in the 90s and a major motion picture, even a crummy one. There are so many more people that just remember the Wing Commander movie and want the Blu-ray and don't understand why you can't do that. Why it costs several $100s. So yes, I I think Chris may have licensed it back out to Fox or Disney or whoever it is now, and somebody needs to get the rights to do a nice DVD. I'll produce it for free. I will work for free to produce a very nice Wing Commander movie DVD or Blu-ray or 4K or whatever.
The digital purchase is up, so it's not.
You can get it digitally.
It's not lost. It's just you can get it in HD if you buy it from one of the platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Which is good.
Barry had a good question. He said, "How would you like to see EA continue Wing Commander?" And I'm going to let me clarify that. How would you like to see it, rather than what do you think would work best for the market? Because I think about both things all day, sometimes professionally, sometimes personally. And let's just not think about what we can sell. What do we want to see?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a few different ways you could go, because, the classic answer is that you want this traditional AAA, big budget, full motion video, and I don't know. Of course that would be fantastic, but that's not always the best experience. I think about how incredible, experiences like Wing Commander Armada are, and certain things can really hook an audience. Just look at the longevity of Ultima Online and how basic it looks today, but boy, it's still going.
Yeah, and you could remaster the old games. You could do something like Howie Day's Howard. Is he Howard now? He was Howie Day originally, and I feel like I insult him accidentally. Howard Day, his incredible wing leader stuff. That would be a great way to bring people to the game. I don't need any of that personally. I would love to see like a hardcore nerd reboot just for us dorks. Do it as like a pen and paper game or a series of books or technical manuals or something. I would be happy as a pig in crap to be playing, just get a Wing Commander source book every year to learn about new spaceships. That would be more than enough for me. So sell me a subscription to actual Claw Mark so I can get every quarter I'll get another issue of a fake space carrier magazine, and you tell the story that way.
I think that kind of hits on it. I think things that advance the lore and the story would be really cool, and I'm less concerned about the format that takes.
That's
whether
true.
It's even literally a space sim or even just something totally different.
Oh, and a happy birthday to Zeether, who mentioned that the CIC anniversary falls around his birthday. A lot of anniversaries, unfortunately, fall around the CIC, which is why we don't do it on the 10th anymore. My wife's birthday is the 9th, so I'm not skipping that to set up Wing Commander anymore. But my anniversary is the 3rd. Yeah. Confederation Day is the 23rd.
Yeah, but my youngest daughter and my wife's birthday are about 10 days away.
Folks in chat are talking about how they first got into the series, and you mentioned it was the Super Nintendo version for you. I had a friend I was living in France in 90 or 91, and one of my dad's friends had a kid, Al Jr., who had a pirated copy of Wing Commander 1, and we spent like hours just trying to guess what the code was. And I think you do it enough times, you'll get the one that's like, how old is Maniac? And we narrowed that down to, well, he's obviously someone in his 20s, so I think we got to 23, and then that was the only way we knew to play Wing Commander, was to keep restarting the game until we got a question we could figure out. I bought a couple copies since then to make up for that.
Yeah, I had a copy of X-Wing vs. TIE Fighter that had a photocopy of the manual to get through that same way.
Yeah, I remember a lot of that back then.
Since bought that game a bunch of times since.
Call Me Grim says Wing Leader looks amazing, and it does. Yeah, he's doing awesome stuff with that, and I guess everybody can do that, can join it now that it's open source. 80 says... Oh, no, go ahead.
What's that? Just another plug for the Discord is that, it's great when Howard reaches a certain milestone, I'll usually summarize a few bits and put it into a news post. But when he's hard at work, I mean, he's iterating every day, getting feedback and posting things for people's comments and such. You can interact with Howard in real time. And you don't even have to be on our server. He's got his own server too.
80 says he's had a Privateer Wing Commander hybrid game in his head that's sort of a mix of Armada-type strategy stuff and more mission-based Wing Commander, where you actually plan out the basic nav points. And I think that is one direction you should absolutely take Wing Commander. If you're doing a base game, there should be more, you're planning the mission. I think of like the original Ghost Recon, where basically they would give you objectives and you would have to plot out how to figure them out. And we got close to that with Wing 4. They wanted to do that with the multiple wings, and you would divide the mission between things. They never got there. They just kind of faked it. But I think that would be a big part of a future Wing Commander. Multiplayer co-op, I think, should be big for a Wing Commander because it's almost natural. You're the wingman and the wing leader, and you fly together. Like that seems to build itself.
I feel like we were one iteration short of that just being incredible, because Starlancer by Digital Anvil has a very good cooperative mode. And it's cross-platform. You can play Dreamcast to PC. Like that would have been, if you got one more game, we would have been in the era of very good co-op hooks built in.
Unfortunately, and we looked at all these numbers when we first started Star Citizen, one of the things they found with Starlancer was that no one played it. And totally different gaming ecosystem. I think if you did Wing Commander where you're the wingman with a buddy, that sells you so much more than this kind of vague thing that Starlancer is. But it was something like 0.5% of players ever even touched it. And it was like 3 months of spend to make it happen or something. And crazy. They lost a lot of money adding that incredible feature. And the same thing with Wing Commander 1. They did the cost-benefit afterwards, and they found out, well, people only play 15 missions, and you have made 40 or 47, 40 in the original. So that's why the paths.
The branching is much less, after that point.
Common Grim says, really, I paid so much. You played Starlancer, but probably not so much multiplayer Starlancer. The multiplayer co-op specifically was very untouched. It was only Super Starlancer nerds that ever did it. But yeah, Legante's here. Hey, how you doing? It's good to see you.
There was another one, Brute Force. Was that also by Digital Anvil?
It was. That was. So, zooming out on this whole story, Digital Anvil was
an incredible cooperative mode. When Halo launched the year or two before with 2-player co-op, that was great. And Brute Force was one of the first 4-player console third-person shooters that had fantastic co-op mode all throughout.
Yeah, Digital Anvil, basically the whole point of the company from Microsoft's perspective, the reason they were so interested in the partnership and then bought it was because they were building out this infrastructure for Xbox. They wanted to be able to say, have these first-party developers, and just like they had Bungie, they had Digital Anvil, and Digital Anvil was going to do, stuff like that. They had a freelancer game, they had a big open world game, they had all sorts of stuff they were going to do with Digital Anvil, and unfortunately it just did not work out. But it's all very closely tied to that launch of the Xbox and the Xbox 360, even though we don't think of it that way. And you can kind of see it when you go back to, like, what was Microsoft doing in 2000? Well, they were starting to make their own video games for some reason, and they were starting to make their own peripherals for some reason, and they were looking at that from the 5-year mark and saying, hey, we need to learn to do this, and then we're going to really do that.
Yeah, and that's a whole story. We could spend a lot of time talking about what they've done and how that then turned into this Wing Commander Arena saga.
I do have a whole pitch in my head that I can give somebody a moment's notice for the trailer for a Privateer sequel, which we're gonna set to the Dixie Chicks song "Cowboy Take Me Away," and I just have all these cinematic shots in my head where it's like a door where somebody's scrawled like "Gone to Gemini" on it, and we just have this idea of going back to the frontier, and I would love to.
If you're following low floor, you can see the GTG acronym pop in once in a while. And
yeah, I guess it's the player Gone to Texas,
which
which was
yeah.
It's gotten to the point where I can see that trailer in my head whenever I want. Apparently they're the Chicks now rather than the Dixie Chicks. I guess that makes sense. Great album though, song. Let's see, any questions from chat? No. Let's see. Our Grim said, with every Homeworld 3 or Doom release, I get more hopeful for Wing Commander. The problem with doing a Wing Commander remaster is that you're going to have to do a bunch more work. Doom has been evolving. The source code is available. They've been building on it all these years, and they do spectacular things, especially the guys at Night Dive. If you play the new Doom release, it's incredibly cool, but they have all this structure to stand on. With Wing Commander, you're going to have to recreate most of your assets. You're going to have to rebuild the engine of the game. And it's not doable, but it's more money. And you need... I don't know. It's doable, and I think they could get there. But it's a lot more work than just a regular remaster. But if anyone out there is looking to remaster Wing Commander and they would like to hire a creative director, I am available. Let's see. Legati says, what's your favorite memory in anything related to Privateer? Privateer was the first game that I ever bought a computer to play. Or that I convinced my family to buy a computer to play. I was in middle school, and I had a surplus IBM PS2 28612 that my dad had gotten me from his job. And it could play Wing Commander 2 very, very, very slowly. And then they announced Academy and Privateer, and it wasn't going to do anything with those. So I remember I bought Privateer that summer before I had the computer, that year before I guess it was September, October, before I had a computer, and I begged my parents to let me use all my whatever savings bond some relative had given me when I was a kid to buy a Gateway 2000, the cow-spotted Gateway 2000 box with a 48666 in it, and loading up Privateer and hearing it talk was incredible. I spent weeks just in the Gemini sector. It's just an incredible game for that kind of thing. And even before that, I remember going to 7th grade with a copy of there was the manual, and there was like the price list for items. And I didn't have the game. I wasn't going to be able to play the game for weeks and weeks, but I was figuring out my ships on paper instead of focusing on my 7th grade English class for sure. So,
I still think of those, all those musical hooks, the launch music, the different tone of the background music on each of the different bases, just the sound effects when you jump, those really stand out to me.
Oh, once I got an SC55 Roland MIDI device for the first time, it was just great. I would just leave the bases overnight, and you would just hear that atmospheric music while I slept. It was incredible. It's so good. I wish the music got as much credit as the main games do. Sebastian asks, what was your first impression of Super Wing Commander? My first impression of Super Wing Commander was abject jealousy. Probably the most jealous I have ever been in my life. There was a kid he was a year before, I think I was in 8th grade and he was in 7th grade when Super Wing came out. And this was the Mac port. I didn't know what a 3DO was at the time. Nobody did. But he got the... And I to this day, I think it was specifically to taunt me. He got Macintosh Super Wing Commander and brought it to school and showed me the manual. And I would have liked to murder that man. But instead, I convinced him to let me read the manual. And I have this memory of figuring, this is claw marks, but it's different. And I think I still have it. I have one of those loose leaf notebooks somewhere where I have written out the entire manual word for word In fact, I think it was the only day I actually skipped school because I went and hid in the middle school's, like, the computer room supply room where I worked for one period. And I just spent all day there, working like a monk, copying out the Super Wing Commander manual. And I mentioned earlier my mom did not let us have game consoles, so I was totally terrified of the idea of saying, "Hey, Mom, can I get a 3DO? They're $800, and they play one video game that I want to play." But instead, I went to my grandmother, and I said, "Hey, I really want this 3DO. It's $800, and it plays one video game, and we can't tell my mom." And she was like, "Sure, why not? I'll get that for you." So I kept a 3DO hidden in my... and in retrospect, my mother did not care at this point, but I had convinced myself that this was the world's greatest sin, being the guy who was hiding a 3DO in his sock drawer. And I even had this whole thing where I had to arrange to... I moved my room to the unfinished basement of the house so no one would see my 3DO. And I was so excited to play it. It was so exciting, as weird as it is. And there is absolutely a point where you hear the voices for the first time and you're like, oh, that's what the speech sounds like. But it was so much fun. And it was the first thing I ever bought on the internet, too. I couldn't find a copy at the Circuit City where I lived. And so I went on the Usenet and I found somebody selling the game, so I bought a used copy, and that was back when you could literally put money in an envelope and mail it to the guy and hope he mailed it back to you, and it all went fine. Yeah,
I remember being baffled by it. I stumbled into it in a software, etc., and I was just like, what is this bizarre thing? Like, can I run this? No, it must have been the Macintosh version.
Yeah, it's a...
Like, what do I even do with this?
And in fact, Jason had to be out tonight, but he could tell you the story that at one point I actually bought a copy of the Macintosh version and I mailed it to him with the agreement that he would take screenshots of it for me, because I couldn't get screenshots from a 3DO back then. Now it's the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Daniel Payne asked, was there ever a plan for a second add-on to Privateer after Righteous Fire? There was. The original SKU plan for Privateer had two, I think they called them Secret Ops discs at that point. They hadn't named it Righteous Fire. And in fact, at one point there was a third story that was going to be Privateer itself. Or no, Privateer was going to be the retro story. That was what became Righteous Fire vaguely, was going to be the campaign in Privateer. And then the first mission disc would be the Steltech thing, and then there would be another one. And I guess you would say Origin formally announced it, because back in the day you could get the release date from Babbage's. They would have it in their database. But I don't believe any work was ever done. There is a crazy amount of work that was... I mean, Origin built all of their add-ons basically out of... the guts and missing pieces that came off of the previous game, the stuff that wasn't used. Almost everything in Secret Missions 2 and Special Operations 1 and 2 is just something that was cut for space from Wing Commander 2 repurposed. And the same for Privateer. And they had a whole lot more that they could have done. They had a Kilrathi stealth fighter with a cloaking device add-on. They had like a double missile launcher. And we have a lot of these assets in our archive that you can access today on the WCpedia. But there were all sorts of things that could have slotted right into the next one. But I think that by the time they finished Righteous Fire and they were like, do we want to do this? It had already been decided, no, they didn't. They wanted to move on to the next thing. One thing you can't undersell in Origins history is that Wing Commander 3 was such a sea change. We look at things and say, hey, why don't they do Super Wing Commander for PC? That's going to be the easiest port job in the world. And from their perspective, Wing Commander 3 meant that nobody wanted to play those old games, that nobody wanted to play a 3-space game anymore. Which I certainly think is not true. I still want to play a 3-space game right now. But that was a big part of the reason for some of those decisions, was purely we don't think the PC audience... We don't want to confuse the PC audience. We don't want to give them a game that's 2D compared to this incredible new 3D engine. interesting stuff to look at zoomed out, because we fans are like, why didn't you give us everything? Like, well, it has to be what can sell.
So speaking of a second privateer expansion, you recently were talking about a third special operations for Wing Commander 2.
Oh yes, so back in the day, Origin used to do these official chats on CompuServe. We have one of them archived at the CIC from 1990, which was Chris Roberts coming to talk the day Secret Missions came out. There was a second one that was everywhere for years. It used to be something you would get on CompuServe, or you could download it from like the AOL board at Origin, and the file was wing2.con. It's nowhere anymore. Unfortunately, I have not been able to find it. I've been searching everywhere. It's on my list of things I regularly check for, but there were a couple of things in it that were pretty important. It was Siobhan Beeman and Ellen Guan talking Wing 2 shortly after it was released. And one of the things that they specifically mentioned in this chat that I don't have the chat to specifically prove is they say we're working on Special Operations 1, 2, and 3. And somebody in the chat goes, there's going to be a 3? And they reply, absolutely, more details soon. And it's not mentioned again anywhere else. I finally found last night or the night before a news article written by someone who saw the chat and mentioned Special Operations 3. So I'm not making it up, at least. I didn't think I was, but you can't. If you don't have the thing, you can't prove it. But now, again, I found one of those echoes that prove that this did actually happen. And I'd love to find that chat. It had a couple interesting things in it that I think history would like to know. And yes, I agree with everyone who would like to see Super Wing Commander emulated better for the PC. I have always wondered why it's so hard to read. There should be a way to redo inputs for these games, because one of the big problems with Wing 3, 3DO, the console games is the controls are so awkward. You have to press A, C, up to change chat. Why isn't there a way that somebody can just say, okay, map that to, you press C on your keyboard just like you do on the PC, and it does the button combo in the emulator? Someone smarter than me needs to figure this out and give us Super Wing Commander 3DO with keyboard. And if anybody's ever wondered, Super Wing Commander 3DO is the superior version to the Mac version, except for the lack of keyboard control, because the resolution's better, the colors are better. The Mac version is actually, and this is something I think almost nobody knows, the Mac version is part of a project that Origin had with, spearheaded and pitched by Warren Spector back in the day, which was, there's this audience of Mac users, and all these educational users, there's an install base. If we can make a game with system requirements that are low enough, we can capture that audience. We can capture an audience that no one is capturing. And so Super Wing Commander is not a high-tech super game in 1995. It's a game that can run on a Macintosh from 1990. And I think approaching it that way helps understand what it is a little bit more. All right, well, I ranted probably enough. You want to call this live stream part done and join folks in chat after this, or do you have any...
Well, I think we had initially been planning for about an hour before and an hour after news post. So we have hit those times. I think we accomplished the objective. Unless there's anything else that anybody has that's jumping out at them.
Yeah, I'll watch chat for a moment, but I think I'm good. I feel pretty confident that we did some cool stuff here.
If a program VJoy helps with the mapping, and it might. It's I kind of suspect
I'll check it out.
There are solutions.
I'll try anything.
And it's just
it's one of those things I tried to do with emulators, and I think I did try a couple of third-party things, and it just frustratingly didn't work the way I expected it to, so I gave up.
Yeah.
So, again, there's somebody out there who's smarter than I am who will figure this out, but I will look up VJoy.
I no longer have the time to to both figure out the technical hurdle and then enjoy the game. And so I'm very much relying on people to do the hard part and then hand me a file. You just push a button and then it works.
Always relied on the kindness of strangers. And for my part, every time I try to do something important and fun for everyone, I end up on some crazy other track trying to figure out poetry references and where a song came from or how many ships got shot down in each shot of the movie. But I get there. I move slowly. So to conclude the great big 26th birthday, and we're going to hope to do this more often this next year. We're going to do some regular streams just to play Wing Commander casually. Doesn't have to be the fanciest thing in the world, but I want to get back out there and do this more often. But we're going to have a great year. We've got multiple albums that are going to come out this year with some music you've never heard before. There's going to be
Wing
cool
Commander
stuff.
albums, maybe some other things bubbling.
Yeah, lots of stuff coming in the next year. I'm going to have a hell of a time just doing my thing. I want to encourage anybody who's interested, come sign on to Discord with us, come sign on to the WCpedia with me. Help me build something really, really cool for everybody. We'll be great friends at the same time, and we'll just have a hell of a time. I met all the best friends I have in life through the Wing Commander community, and I'm so happy to know so many people like that still.
And let us know when you find the new video in the Privateer Alpha.
Yeah, let us know. Let us know what else you find in Privateer. We discovered stuff in 2 minutes. I'm sure there's other exciting stuff in there. Okay. Somebody asked, what games that are similar to Wing Commander would you recommend, preferably for DOS? I'm a huge WC fan and have played them a lot. I am going to say Archimedean Dynasty, which is a submarine game. I believe it's either DOS or it's very, very early Windows. I think it's DOS. It captures the feeling of Privateer like no other game. You know, the other stuff that the guys at Origin worked on, Starlancer is incredible, Freelancer is wonderful. All the Star Wars stuff is excellent. X-Wing TIE Fighter, X-Wing and TIE Fighter, X-Wing Alliance, those are all great games. But Archimedean Dynasty, for some reason, captures the Privateer feel for me in a way that no other games really do.
Internet says it looks like it's DOS and Windows.
Okay, cool.
1997.
And it has sequels after that were nowhere near as good, but it really has that Privateer feel to it. Check that one out. But Starlancer, Freelancer, some people like Free Space. It's not my favorite. iWar. There's endless old games in this same sense. And the thing I love about X-Wing is that it doesn't rip off Wing Commander. If there were any series that ever should rip off Wing Commander, because Wing Commander is Chris Roberts saying, "Hey man, Star Wars is a good movie. I wish I could play that." And then Larry Holland came along with X-Wing and said, "Well, we're not going to make it the same. We're going to have a slower, thinkier, more strategy-oriented space sim." And that's kind of insane when you think that the Star Wars franchise is faster, more intense. That's Lucas's thing about everything. Faster, more intense. Faster, more intense. And for X-Wing, they said slower, thinkier. And it resulted in something so insanely cool. And I don't think anybody appreciates that. People wonder why Squadrons didn't quite work, why people didn't play later Star Wars games. It's because the joy of X-Wing wasn't just the fantasy of flying an X-Wing, which you can do in a million different ways. It was the level to which it got your head engaged. So if you want a thinkier space sim, X-Wing and its various sequels for sure. Alright, that's it for those questions. Okay. We're going to sign off for the year. We'll see you very, very soon. Enjoy Privateer Alpha. Enjoy Privateer Beta. Enjoy everything. We're going to be playing it with you, and
we'll see you at WCnews.com, the Discord, and everywhere else.